The rain pounded relentlessly on the cobblestone driveway, each drop hitting like a tiny hammer against the polished stones, creating a symphony of chaos that drowned out the low hum of Victor Harrington's luxury sedan. The sleek black vehicle, a symbol of his hard-won empire, glided through the wrought iron gates of his sprawling estate, its tires whispering secrets to the wet ground. Victor, the self-made millionaire whose name echoed through the corridors of Wall Street and the boardrooms of fortune. 500 companies gripped the steering wheel a little tighter than usual. It had been one of those evenings, a whirlwind of boardroom battles where egos clashed like thunder, followed by champagne toasts that tasted more like victory than bubbly. Deals had been sealed, rivals outmaneuvered, and his portfolio had swelled by another few million. Yet, as he approached the grand entrance of his mansion, a nagging emptiness lingered in his chest, a void that no amount of wealth could fill. The estate loomed ahead, a testament to his rags-to-riches story: 20 acres of manicured lawns, marble fountains that now overflowed with rainwater, and a mansion that could rival European castles. Lights from the towering windows cast golden hues into the night, piercing the veil of the storm. Victor's mind wandered to the next day's agenda: mergers, acquisitions, perhaps a quick flight to Monaco for a yacht negotiation. But all those thoughts shattered in an instant when his headlights swept across the perimeter fence. There, caught in the stark beam like actors on a tragic stage, was an elderly couple, drenched and huddled together, collapsed against the cold wrought iron bars. The sight hit Victor like a physical blow, stopping him in shock. His foot slammed on the brake, the car jerking to a halt with a squeal that blended into the storm's roar. For a moment, he sat frozen behind the wheel, the wipers swishing back and forth in a futile attempt to clear the windshield and his vision. The woman's frail hand clutched her husband's arm with desperate tenacity, her fingers white-knuckled against his sodden coat sleeve. Their faces were pale, etched with lines of despair that spoke of years of hardship, now culminating in this pitiful tableau. Rain cascaded down their wrinkled skin, matting their gray hair and pooling around their slumped forms. The man, slightly hunched, seemed to be shielding his wife from the worst of the deluge, but his own body trembled with exhaustion or cold or both. Victor's heart raced, pounding in his ears louder than the thunder rumbling overhead. He hadn't seen vulnerability like this since his own impoverished childhood, those dark days in the cramped orphanage where hope was as scarce as a warm meal. Flashes of memory assaulted him, huddling under threadbare blankets during winter storms. The gnawing hunger that never quite left, the endless parade of faces that promised salvation but delivered only disappointment. How many nights had he dreamed of escaping that life, vowing to build a fortress against such suffering? And now, here it was, literally at his gates, a cruel reminder that the world outside his bubble still turned on axes of pain and neglect. Shaking off the paralysis, Victor abandoned his umbrella in the passenger seat. It seemed trivial now, a prop from a life of excess. He flung open the car door, the wind whipping rain into his face like needles. "James," he bellowed toward the mansion, his voice cutting through the gale as he dashed out into the storm. His butler, ever vigilant, appeared at the grand double doors, silhouetted against the warm interior light. "Call an ambulance now." Victor's tailored suit, bespoke from Savile Row, and worth more than most people's monthly rent, soaked through in seconds, the fine wool clinging to his skin like a second, uncomfortable layer. He reached the couple in a few strides, his polished loafers slipping on the slick grass bordering the fence. Kneeling beside them, he ignored the mud staining his knees, the water seeping into his socks. Up close, the scene was even more heart-wrenching. The woman, Martha, he would later learn, murmured faintly, her eyes fluttering open at his approach. They were eyes clouded with age and weariness, but beneath that, a spark of quiet dignity. Her husband, Elias, lifted his head weakly, his beard streaked with rain, his gaze wary yet pleading. "Help, please," he rasped, his voice barely audible over the downpour. Victor's hands hovered uncertainly, unsure where to touch without causing more harm. He gently placed a hand on Elias's shoulder, feeling the frailty beneath the wet fabric. "It's okay," Victor said, his own voice thick with emotion he hadn't felt in years. "I'm here. Help is coming." The words felt inadequate, a band-aid on a gaping wound. As he knelt there, the rain mingling with something warmer on his cheeks' tears, he scanned their faces more closely. There was something familiar about them, a nagging pull at the edges of his memory, like a half-forgotten dream. The storm intensified, lightning cracking the sky and illuminating the estate in stark white flashes. Thunder boomed, shaking the ground, but Victor remained steadfast, his body a makeshift shield against the elements. He shrugged off his suit jacket, draping it over Martha's shoulders despite her weak protests. "No, sir. We're fine. Just resting," she whispered, but her shivering betrayed the lie. Elias nodded faintly, his arm tightening around her. Victor's mind raced. Who were they? How had they ended up here, collapsed outside his fortress of solitude? The gates were secure, the perimeter patrolled, yet fate had deposited them right at his doorstep as minutes stretched like hours. Victor's thoughts delved deeper into his past. He remembered the orphanage in vivid detail now, the smell of damp walls, the echo of children's cries. There had been a couple once, kind souls who volunteered on weekends, bringing homemade cookies and stories of better tomorrows. Elias and Martha. The names teased at him, but the connection eluded. He pushed it aside. There would be time for questions later. Right now, survival mattered. James, the butler, arrived with umbrellas and blankets, his usually impeccable uniform disheveled from the haste. "Ambulance is en route, sir." 5 minutes. Together, they helped the couple to their feet, supporting their weight as they shuffled toward the mansion's entrance. Elias leaned heavily on Victor, his steps faltering, while Martha clutched her sodden purse like a lifeline. Inside it, unbeknownst to Victor, was that faded photo the key to unlocking everything. The grand foyer welcomed them with warmth, crystal chandeliers casting prisms of light on marble floors. But as Victor guided them in, closing the massive doors against the storm, he felt a shift within himself. The boardroom victories paled. This was real, raw humanity. His estate, once a symbol of isolation, now felt like a sanctuary waiting to be shared. Little did he know, this encounter would unravel his carefully constructed life, weaving threads from his forgotten past into a tapestry of redemption. As the sirens wailed in the distance, Victor helped them to the plush sofas in the living room, the fire crackling in the hearth chasing away the chill. Paramedics would arrive soon, but in those interim moments, conversations began halting at first, then flowing like the rain outside. Elias and Martha's story emerged in fragments. Eviction from their modest home after medical bills piled up, wandering the streets in search of shelter, collapsing here by chance, or was it destiny? Victor's shock evolved into a profound empathy, stirring emotions long buried under layers of success. He fetched hot towels, ordered tea from the kitchen, his hands trembling not from cold, but from the weight of realization. This couple, strangers yet not, had pierced his armored existence. As he sat with them, listening to their whispered thanks, he pondered the irony. A millionaire brought to his knees by the very poverty he'd escaped. The extension of that moment stretched Victor's soul. He recalled his climb, starting with nothing, hustling through odd jobs, then tech startups that exploded into empires. But in gaining the world, had he lost his compassion? The elderly couple's presence forced introspection. Martha's gentle smile, Elias's quiet strength, they reminded him of the foster parents who'd given him a brief taste of family before bureaucracy tore them apart. By The time the ambulance pulled up, lights flashing against the windows, Victor had made a silent vow. This wasn't just a rescue, it was a reckoning. As paramedics checked vitals and confirmed stability amid exhaustion, Victor insisted on accompanying them to the hospital. The rain continued its assault outside, but inside, a warmth bloomed not from the fire, but from rekindled